Hey there, and welcome on back. As always, I'm Carl with Target's the Attitude, absent-minded professor of knives and all things sharp. It's Monday, so it's knife basics, which you really need to know. Today, we're looking at serrations. Yes, serrations. Some knives have them, some don't. Some have a fully serrated blade, some have a partially serrated blade. But why? What good are serrations? Do they serve any really useful purpose, or are they just something neat to look at? Well, we'll look at that in just a minute. First, let's get our syllabus work out of the way, shall we? If you're new to the channel, welcome. Here on Mondays, we do knife basics, which you really need to know. This is aimed more at the person who's new to the world of knives and needs to know all the fancy things, like today, what are serrations. A couple weeks ago, when I talked about how to care for wooden knife handles. Excuse me. Even before that, when I covered what is a hollow grind versus a flat grind. What is G10 or micarta? These sorts of things. Basic information that keeps you from sitting there going, when you're talking to a knife vendor at either a store or show. But there's some information that's useful to those who've been around the block a while as well. Who knows, occasionally even I learn something new, so hope you join us and keep on going. And of course on Fridays we have knife reviews. Occasionally I'll review some piece of camping or survival gear, but mainly knife reviews. And for those of you who've been with us for a while, well, welcome back. I'm glad you made it, and I hope you've subscribed. For those of you who want to but haven't, well, it's very simple. Just hit that button right down there. It says subscribe. Then you hit the bell next to it. That way you get notified whenever I put up a new video. It's a win-win situation. Win for you because you don't miss any of my neat new videos. Win for me because, well, let's be honest, the more subscribers I have, the easier it is to get these neat new things. But back to the subject at hand. I pulled out two knives that I've been working on restoring to help us with this one. One of these is actually not a knife, so to speak, but a multi-tool. It's a very old one. But it's got a nice serrated blade on it. This one is one I found in my dad's workbench. It's been in there at least 18 years because my dad died over 18 years ago. So it needs a lot of work as well, but it'll still do for an example. Plain edge on this blade and on the other two blades. Most common type of knife. Why? Well, because most of the time, this is all you need. I mean, if you're whittling, a nice straight blade gives you everything you need to get down in there and whittle some wood. You can use the straight edge to slice in or open up some mail, cut open a cardboard box, all sorts of things. And because you've got the edge running the length of the blade, since most time cutting is done by bringing the edge like so and just slicing on through, the longer the straight edge, the easier it is to slice. Serrations are sort of like sawback teeth. You see these on knives like this, on some camping knives, survival knives. You of course see it on a lot of steak knives, bread knives in the kitchen, shorter knives designed to cut tomatoes. Basically, the advantage of a serrated blade is that it acts almost like a saw. So when you've got something that has a lot of give in it or is kind of tough to cut, serrations just kind of go right through, almost like a saw blade would. And once you get started cutting, they just keep on going. So, yeah, you can cut deeper, faster with it, but you can't make fancy cuts with it. These are often used by paramedics in the field who have to cut a lot of seat belts and rope and cords and that sort of thing. They're great out in the garden when you have to cut down vines or cut through branches or that sort of thing. Again, tough, hard to cut items that are kind of springy, but this just grabs on and slices through them almost like a saw would. Same with bread. If you ever get a fresh loaf of bread, yeah, the crust might be crispy, but as you try to cut through it, it's going to go back and forth on you. Serration helps overcome that. Same with tomato. So serrations are really great. They are extremely handy for the right purpose. Now, I know some people who love serrations and have them on all the knives. Why? Well, for one thing, because the serrations cut in almost like a saw blade do, even if they're getting a little dull like this one is, they still act like they're sharp. Not very sharp, but they act like they're sharper than they are. So you don't have to sharpen them as often. Quite handy. As I said, when you're dealing with ropes and cording and that sort of thing, they're invaluable. Matter of fact, when I was a paramedic, way back in the dark ages when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, about all of my knives were either serrated or partially serrated because I needed to be able to cut those ropes, and I didn't have time to worry about whether if my knife was sharp or not. Big problem is sharpening a serrated blade is a pain in the rear. When I get my video on sharpening done, I'll show you what I mean. A straight blade, on the other hand, you have to keep this sharp because there's nothing to help with it if it gets dull. And if it gets dull, yeah, it's just... This is a good knife, but it's been, after sitting for almost 20 years, the edge can't cut anything except butter. But it's so much easier to keep this knife sharp than it is a serrated knife. So as long as you're not overwhelmed or forgetful or neglectful or whatever adjective you want to use for it, there's no reason why this should get dull, and especially not as dull as I just proved this one is. So which one should you carry? Well, that's really up to you. I mean, a lot of it is personal choice. Truthfully, since I retired from the field, I don't feel the need for serrated blades. I don't carry them anymore. Plain blades do me much better. But I know auto mechanics that insist on partially serrated knives because they're cutting wiring harnesses all the time. I got a clue for you, as I've proved on several of my reviews. If you've got a good straight blade that's been properly heat treated and is kept sharp, you can still cut wiring harnesses with them. But people feel like the serrated edge knives will do a better job. If they feel that way and they want a serrated knife, more power to them. I wouldn't, but that's me. They do. There's plenty out there from all makers, from Spyderco to Kershaw to Smith & Wesson to K-Bar, you name it. The company's got at least one serrated knife in their lineup somewhere. On the other hand, if you're cutting a lot of ropes or seat belts, the sort of things that firemen and paramedics have to cut all the time, then yeah, a serrated knife or partially serrated knife is definitely great for you. If you need to cut a fire hose to patch it and trim it or put a new end on it, a serrated knife is your best friend, because those fire hoses, they're designed to be run over without damage. Something designed to do that, this straight edge is not really going to do a very good job of it. And truthfully, while the straight edge would, you'd really be better off with a pair of shears. So, but yeah, that's basically it. Not a lot to say. Each has their own pros, each have their own cons. Biggest pro and con is which feels better to you. But I'll cut this short because I don't want to just blather on and bore you. In the meantime, I'll wish you luck. I'll leave you with a couple videos right over here that I think you'll enjoy. And as always, you can hit the target right down here to subscribe. I hope you do. And we'll see you Friday when we review a new knife. Until then, y'all take care now. Bye.